Welcome to the Advocates Lounge. My name's Katherine and I've been Dere Street's Family Specialist pupil for 2023-24.
Hi everyone, I'm Jordan Parkinson. I've been Dere Street's Specialist Criminal pupil for the same year as Katherine. And we're here today to talk about life as a pupil and then now life as a tenant and how we found the whole process. We're firstly going to be talking about the application process and how we found applying for pupillage in general, including the written applications and also the actual interviews themselves. Katherine, what did you find about applying for pupillage?
Yeah, firstly, it's a very stressful time.
Definitely.
It's a lot of deadlines, it's a lot of different applications, but for Dere Street in particular, I found the application process really well organised. I think that was a really standout for me. And the questions which were asked in the application and I think during interview as well were really self-reflective, and I think that was something that stood out for me as a chambers that I wanted to be at.
I remember one of the questions being, what was your biggest mistake and why? And thinking, right, I really need to evaluate my whole life again now. I'm thinking, what was the biggest mistake and how do I put that in words without sounding terrible? I'm trying to turn it around as to, okay, yeah, there was some strengths out of this. So kind of being honest, but picking and choosing new examples as well that's relevant to the job, I think. Did you kind of think the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of what is really, really important in this job, because you are self-employed, you don't have a manager as such, you do have to critique your performance, you do have to be self-reflective, and you do have to learn from any mistakes. So I think that being part of the application process, that being part of the questions that were asked during interview, gave me an impression of a set that really valued that and wanted to support that sort of continuous learning and development. And I think that attitude to the application process for pupillage, for me, has been demonstrable during pupillage as well and into tenancy.
I would agree. I feel like every day is a learning day and everyone's there to help us all the time. For example, the other day I had a fishing case that I've never ever done before. I normally do criminal law, so it was totally out of the ordinary, but I knew I could speak to anyone about it going forward and think, right, okay, what do I need to know about this? Research the law and who can help me to make sure, yeah, you're on the right track there. I think in terms of the application process and going through to interview, I remember being terrified before the interviews, and it's natural to obviously be terrified during the interview. And I remember the questions being so specific and remembering to think, right, okay, listen to the question and give an answer that's structured rather than just blurting out everything I want to say there and then. What did you find the most challenging about the interviews?
I was exactly the same. I mean, it's an incredibly nerve-wracking process, the interviews. I can remember my interview taking place at the quayside and me pacing back and forth at the back of chambers, listening to music to get me pumped up, ready to go. I think it was important to remember, and it might sound very stupid, that you are interviewing for the job that you're going to be doing.
Definitely.
So how you walk into chambers and introduce yourself, how you manage a significant quantity of paperwork that might be sprung upon you, and how do you navigate that without panicking? What happens if the panel bombards you with different questions?
Yeah, like how am I going to deal with that?
Exactly, but like knowing that that is actually part of the job that you're applying for. How will you cope in a situation, for example, when the judge interrupts your flow, or you can't have pre-prepared answers for everything, and you need to work on your feet, and you need to not go bright red in the face when someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, and how important it is to be honest if you don't know the answer as well. And I think all of those different skills and the ethics of being a barrister are all tested in that interview.
Yeah, you need to be able to show all of those skills, like all in one go. I think the thing that I took out of it most was, especially the debate question, is when you're deciding upon your stance, are you opposing the statement or you're for the statement, And when they're coming back at you saying, well, do you not think this? Have you taken this into account? You need to be able to stand your ground and be able to respond back with something. Yeah, you might not agree, and then you're not going to be able to think of something, but at least think of an answer that's going to stand up to them, question you back again. And I remember coming out thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to get through after that answer. But I think it was just being able to answer, like you said, rather than just going bright red and having a meltdown in the middle of the interview. Like, if we did that in court, I think the judge would probably just look at us and think, oh no.
And I think that is exactly part of it, isn't it? Where you might be presented with something that you don't know the answer to, and how do you respond to that? And I think with the essay question, for example, what's been your case analysis going into that question? Have you thought about the ways in which people might disagree with what you're about to say? Have you countered those arguments, and are you ready and prepared for those? And I think, again, if you look at the interview as a test of whether you can
do the job itself.
I think it might, ease a bit of, for me at least, it eased a bit of the pressure in knowing that those are the skills that were being tested, rather than it being about an absolute perfect performance.
I think one of the things that I took away most, and for anyone applying for pupillage going forward now, is you need to be a normal person. Like, yes, we've got a professional job, but you actually need to have a personality and something about you. I remember the question, what do you do in your spare time? I'm a gym freak. I go to the gym all the time. As you know, you're always, where you are at the gym. Still managed to fit it around life. But one of the questions as well, I used to have a cookie business. So, for example, that made me stand out there, and everyone was saying, well, where's the cookies today? And my response was, well, I didn't want to bribe anyone by bringing them in today. And I remember just thinking, right, okay, at least I've shown I am a normal person, and I'm not just here for this legal issue, or this is what I've done in work and this is why you should pick me. Like,
yeah, I think that's definitely an important part of that interview, as well as when they ask you about your well-being and how you will manage life at the bar, isn't it? And you do so much gym.
Definitely.
I do not do so much gym.
You go swimming occasionally.
Occasionally. But I think, how do you manage what will be quite a hectic and steep learning curve in pupillage, and particularly at the very beginning few years of this career? How are you going to manage life?
Moving forward to first and second six, how did you actually manage to have a work-life balance? Because I know we were messaging each other all the time. Your diary was crazy, my diary was crazy. Like, how did you actually navigate life itself?
Well, I think it is a bit of a shock to the system. I think it can feel quite overwhelming. I think particularly in second six, for example, when you see things coming into your diary.
Being like, this is actually my case.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Like, it's a wow, this is happening. It's exhilarating. It's so exciting, but at the same time, it's daunting. And I think that's a natural feeling to have.
I remember getting the first brief through, like, with my name actually on, thinking, right, okay, this is actually real now. I'm not just sat behind someone else. Like, it's going to be me on that front row, and it's your instructions. You need to do the best you can do for the client. And I remember thinking, this, right, it's all, I've only dreamed of that time, and then it finally came through, and I was like, right, okay, this is hopefully going to be the rest of my life.
Yeah, and knowing, I think I've felt a lot of solace and security, I think, from having such a warm, friendly, approachable set that is Dere Street. There's been several panicked, stressed out phone calls to my supervisor, which I think is only normal.
I remember getting things like so last minute the night before and thinking, right, okay, the CPS or someone hasn't given me this information. How do I approach this? And I remember just going in the robing room and seeing people from chambers and being like, okay, yeah, we'll go over, we'll have a conversation. And everyone was there, like, do you need any more help? Everyone was always there to answer your questions, weren't they? I feel like that's such a good thing about chambers, that everyone will help. It's not too much for them, even though their diaries are crazy as well. They're willing to help us because they know they were in our position once.
Exactly, and again, I know I seem to hammer this point home, but I think for me, it's again about that environment of it being such a process of continuous learning and just continuous development, and that being the focus, of second six and beyond, the way that I could and felt very confident and comfortable to be able to speak to anybody, grab them in the advocate's room, text at God knows what time with a question, and know that someone would always be there. And I think that's also the best way in which you can learn. And I think having that sort of environment really helped, and made sure that you could perform to the absolute best of your ability as well. What do you think your best bits of pupillage were?
I absolutely loved it all. Like, my supervisor did just defending, so when I started doing both, I really enjoyed seeing it from both different sides, and then utilising what I learned from the defence world, kind of flipping it round and okay, the defence are probably going to say this, so I'll prosecute it this way. But my favourite part that stood out was nearly a month ago now, I did my first jury trial. It was terrifying, thinking, right, okay, I've got to stand up in front of these 12 people and speak continuously for a closing speech. And I remember the prosecutor finishing their speech, and my belly was just churning, thinking, right, it's my turn now. Don't go bright red in front of the jury. And standing up, and once I got in the flow of the speech, I absolutely loved it. It felt so surreal being in that position and outlining the client's position and why we shouldn't find them guilty today. And then the jury were out for an hour and a half, and they returned unanimous not guilty verdicts. So it was such a relief, and I thought, right, okay, I've really set myself high expectations now, winning the first one and kind of going forward, but just I've always dreamt of being in that position and doing it, so I loved actually finally doing it. What's been your best part?
For me, I would say that I think looking back to day one of second six and to where I am now, I think I'm most proud, or I think the best bit for me is looking back and seeing how far I've come in such a short space of time. I feel more confident. I hopefully approach things much quicker than I used to, and I've just learned so much. Yeah, seeing how far I've come has been the best bit for me.
I feel like pupillage is a process of just soaking in so much information, and sometimes you do think, whoa, this is so overwhelming, but then you get to a stage and think, right, I've actually learned all this and now I can put it into practice myself.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about before this, sometimes it might have took us 2 hours to prep before, now it might take us half an hour. So like once we get familiar with the type of hearings we'll be doing, we know kind of how to structure it, and it kind of makes life a lot easier for us now.
So how has your diary been in second six? Because it's been slightly different for you as a crime specialist pupil. You seem to get things
Last minute.
very last minute, and it's a quick turnaround. How have you coped with that diary situation?
Yeah, so in crime, the diaries don't get finalised normally about 5:30 the evening before. So although I think I know where I'm going to be tomorrow, it's not actually confirmed until I get the finalised diary through for tomorrow. So yeah, sometimes I can get new hearings in, a total new appeal that can take a lot longer to prep than a first hearing would be for tomorrow. And I think I kind of just pull it up. I kind of know how I prep things now, so I've got a layout for each different type of hearing, pull out the key information and then just prepare from there. And I think it is a lot to get used to everything coming up so last minute. But then it kind of keeps your adrenaline going, no day's the same. And it's exciting because you think, right, okay, I've got this tomorrow. It was going to be not a boring day, but not as exciting as some days will be. But then spanner's thrown in the works at 5:30, and then you just think, right, okay, it is what it is. I can still have a life. Like, I'll go to the gym on the way home from work, then I'll go home and prep for the rest of the evening. And it's kind of just managing it that way, where I can still get the work done by reading everything thoroughly, but not give myself a total headache where I can't look at the screen any longer. Is your diary, do you know where you're going to be for the next month, kind of?
So I think as a family specialist pupillage, I think my diary's been a bit more structured than receiving briefs at 5:30 at night. There have been the occasional time that's happened when there's an urgent application and you receive your instructions quite late, which is understandable, not to critique the receipt of the instructions at that late notice. But in second six, I've had the opportunity to do quite a lot of local authority work, which has been a really, really great. It does involve a lot more front loading, because it is the local authority's application when you're doing public children matters. So there's a lot of paperwork, summaries, draft orders that would need to be done in advance. So trying to get used to that and manage that as well has been a learning.
Well, we've both come out the other side and we're both tenants now, which is exciting. I remember looking back a year ago now and thinking, right, okay, we're actually going to have to apply for tenancy now, because we've been with Chambers about nearly a year and 1 month now, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And hopefully for the rest of our career, which is exciting but surreal at the same time. What are you hoping going forward? Do you have any specific plans with career plans?
I think just to take it as it goes, taking things on when the opportunity comes up. And I think what I gained from First Six in particular is the opportunity to be able to observe such a breadth of very, very senior advocates who are exceptional and doing very serious non-accidental injury cases, fabricated illness cases, seeing the breadth of and the scope of instruction that Dere Street gets. It makes me really excited for the career as it develops. So yeah, really excited for that. What about you?
I remember shadowing my supervisor on an attempt murder case and numerous rape cases and thinking, my God, I can't be doing this in a couple of months' time, but actually experiencing such senior people in Chambers and then also seeing it from the other end is exciting to see. Look, it's going to be every day's a learning day and we're going to get ourselves to that stage, and it's exciting just to know, right, okay, we're going to climb up the ladder and just learn as we go. And I just think it's such a supportive set that everyone is helping us to progress in the way we want to. Like, even if I ring the clerks and say, I'd like to do some more of this work, and everyone's there to help and say, right, okay, we'll organise this. And I know your experience was the same. We can just ring the clerks at any point and be like, right, okay, we'll do that for you, no problem.
So I know it's coming up to the application process and the pupillage application season. It's obviously a really stressful time, so make sure that you look after yourself and know that, at least on the North Eastern Circuit and in Dere Street in particular, you know that me and Jordan are here. You know that you can reach out to people, and that's something that you should try and do. Know the job that you're applying for and really why you want to do it.
Good luck for everyone applying, and hopefully we'll see you all around soon.